You might have a plan for saving in your RSP, but you probably don't have a solid plan as to how you're going to get your money out of your RSP. And today, I'm going to cover 3 pretty solid reasons as to why it could be so important to draw down your RSPs aggressively. I will share 3 pretty effective strategies to do it. I'm Joe Macek, cross-border investment advisor and portfolio manager with IA Private Wealth and IA Private Wealth USA. And today, I'm going to show you how you might be able to save a massive amount of tax by doing an RSP meltdown. Let's do it. Your first reason to do an RRSP meltdown is that you could be sitting on an RRSP tax bomb that hasn't detonated yet. And I've heard this chilling story over the years more than once. My parents had RRSPs, and when they died, the government swooped in and took half of their money. I've heard people grumbling that RRSPs are a ripoff, and they regret how after years of contributing to these accounts and getting tax deductions, they're now getting hit with massive taxes when they withdraw their funds. RRSP investing can be a nightmare scenario, but with smart planning, you can dodge this disaster and help preserve your wealth. But to understand how you can be sitting on a live RRSP tax bomb, you need to understand how taxation in Canada works and what happens to your RRSPs when the second spouse passes away. But don't worry, I will try to make this as clear and as easy to understand as I possibly can. Canada's tax system is designed to hit you harder as your income grows. The more you earn, the higher the tax rate you face. We have what is called a progressive tax system in Canada, and it's called that because as we make more and more money, we are taxed progressively more on the larger amount. And it's not just federally. Each province has its own tax brackets, and some provinces have much steeper rates than others. To help illustrate this, I'm going to go to the Ernst & Young site and pull up the combined provincial and federal taxes of Ontario, and let's use Ontario as an example. In 2024, if you earn up to $15,705, you pay no tax. Every dollar is tax-free. But once you start to make more than $15,705, say $18,602, your tax rate increases to 15%. But what a lot of people don't know is that you don't pay 15% on all of the $18,602 you've earned. You just pay the 15% on the additional portion, $2,357, that falls into this new tax bracket. So if you earn $2,357 more, only that extra amount is taxed at 15%. And the first $15,705 is still tax-free. The next slice of income from $18,063 to $23,726 is taxed at 25.10%. But again, don't get upset as you're not paying 25.10% on the whole amount. You only pay this higher rate on the portion that falls into this new tax bracket. The amount between $15,705 and $18,062 is taxed at 15%, while the new slice from $18,063 to $23,726 is taxed at 25.10%. The earlier slice below $15,705 still remains tax-free. Most people don't just have one tax rate. They have several, and they climb higher as your income grows. Your income is taxed in layers called marginal tax rates. This tells you how much tax you'll pay on every extra dollar that you earn. Meanwhile, the average tax rate adds up all of the taxes that you've paid across all of the different tax brackets and divides that number by your overall income. This will give you a general idea of how much tax you're paying on average on your whole amount. Now, if we head over to my website, joemacek.com, we can show you both the average and the marginal tax rates in action. And as you can see, when we add $19,000 in income in Ontario, we can see the marginal tax rate of 25.10%, and the average tax you would pay is 3.1%. So what does all this have to do with the RRSP tax bomb? Well, when you contribute to an RRSP, the amount is deducted from your taxable income. However, when you withdraw money, it gets added back into your income. And to illustrate this further, let's use a couple, Mark and Cassidy, as an example. Mark and Cassidy had diligently saved for their retirement by contributing to their RRSPs, with Mark accumulating $750,000 in his and Cassidy putting away $500,000 in hers. When Mark passed away, his $750,000 RRSP was able to roll over tax-free into Cassidy's RRSP, merging with her existing $500,000. Now, this brought Cassidy's RRSP to a new total of $1.25 million. This rollover allowed the funds to continue growing tax deferred and spared Cassidy from an immediate tax hit, helping her maintain their retirement savings strategy. However, when Cassidy passed away, she had spent some of her RRSP, now taking it down to $1 million, and her RRSP became immediately taxable. How? Well, the CRA deems an RRSP upon the death of the second spouse as disposed, or in short, there is a deemed disposition of the RRSP. Even though you haven't withdrawn anything, the CRA treats it as if you had withdrawn the entire amount. So what is the tax due on Cassidy's estate for the RRSP? Well, $491,960 at a 49.20% tax rate. A truly astounding amount of tax, or a tax bomb that just went off. And by the way, even if Cassidy tries to get clever and names her kids as the beneficiaries of her RRSP, there's still no way to avoid the tax bill when she passes away. The full amount in her RRSP will be added to her taxable income for that year, leading to a substantial tax liability. This tax bill is generally unavoidable regardless of who is named as the beneficiary. So how can Mark and Cassidy reduce their tax impact? Well, they can start making withdrawals from their RRSPs even if they don't immediately need the money. For example, if they each earn $60,000 a year, they're in a lower tax bracket. And if they withdraw $19,000 from their RRSPs, their total income would rise to $79,000, but they'd still likely stay in the same tax bracket, avoiding a jump into a higher rate. And if they have a terrible year for income, pulling some of their money out of RRSPs tax-free, up to $15,000 each, might be worth it. But what Mark and Cassidy also did was that they hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, as it really helps out my channel. They also knew that 90% of the viewers that came back to watch my channel weren't subscribed, so they hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and now they don't miss any of my uploads. And this is important because withdrawing a smaller amount now out of their RRSPs, they pay less tax overall compared to the hefty tax bill that could come if the entire amount was taxed upon their passing. And even if they don't need the cash, they can use these withdrawals to boost their TFSA contributions or invest in a joint non-registered account. This strategy can help grow their money more tax efficiently in the long run. The second reason to draw down your RRSPs aggressively is to avoid the old age security clawback when you turn 65. Now, I'm definitely not going to dive into the details of how the OAS clawback works, as I've covered it extensively in other videos. However, the key takeaway here is that withdrawing some of your RRSPs in advance if you're in a low tax bracket can help lower your income when your OAS kicks in. By strategically managing your withdrawals, you can reduce the chance of crossing the income threshold that triggers the clawback. This approach can be highly beneficial when you reach 65, 70, or whenever it is you decide to start taking your OAS benefits, allowing you to keep more of your hard-earned money. The third reason to aggressively draw down your RRSPs is to tackle the future costs of a personal care home. If you wind up going to a personal care home, your monthly bill is based on your income. The more you make, the more you'll pay, even though the care you'll receive is the same for everyone. In Ontario, for instance, basic accommodation costs around $1,800 to $2,000 a month, with semi-private or private rooms costing an extra $400 to over $1,000. If your income is high, you could be paying top dollar while those with lower incomes get a break. To avoid these steeper costs, it's crucial to manage your income now. By drawing down your RRSPs, you can keep your income lower and reduce what you'll have to pay for care retire in the future. However, drawing down your RSPs when you're younger in lower tax brackets is just one way to tackle your RSPs before old age security payments and personal care home costs come into play. But there are two other strategies to take on an RSP meltdown. The second strategy involves using an investment loan to purchase a new portfolio, aiming to make the interest on the loan tax deductible. Now, I'm not going to go into detail as to how this strategy works, as I don't particularly like it, as it has significant downsides. While this strategy can be effective, it carries significant risks. Negative market performance can greatly affect its success, and you might end up paying more in interest than your investments gain. You will see this strategy discussed on many other channels, and it's often touted as a great thing to do, but it won't be discussed here because as a fiduciary, I rarely, if ever, recommend this strategy to retirees due to its inherently large risk of loss. Strategy number 3 is staving off other forms of income. Now, this is one of the most common ways to handle RSP withdrawals because it's easy and it carries relatively low risk, and it's quite similar to the first strategy that we discussed earlier. The traditional advice is to start taking CPP and old age security as soon as you retire while postponing the RSP withdrawals for as long as possible. The idea here is that as long as your money stays in an RSP or a RIF and it's growing tax deferred, by letting it grow for as long as possible, you aim to maximize the account's size. This strategy works well if you live a long life. However, if you have a large RSP or pass away earlier than expected, the entire account balance gets taxed as income on your final return. And as we covered earlier, without a spouse to roll it over to, you might face some hefty tax bills. Remember, the larger your RSP, the higher your taxes. In fact, if you have other income on that final return, you could end up losing half of your account's value to taxes. Now that's extreme. So the main idea behind this strategy is to do the opposite. Start draining money from your RSP in the early years of your retirement. This way you move funds from taxable accounts into tax-free or low tax accounts like the tax-free savings accounts or non-registered accounts. But you have to be smart about it. Withdrawals from your RSP or RIF are added to your income for the year and generally taxed at your top marginal rate. Find the tax bracket that you want to stay under and cap your income at that level. For example, if you're in Ontario, any income over $55,867 bumps you from a 24.15% tax bracket to a 29.65% tax bracket. Keeping your total taxable income below $55,867 could save you that extra 5.5% in additional taxes. And there you have it. 3 reasons that you need to aggressively withdraw your RSPs and 3 RSP meltdown strategies to help save massive taxes. By taking control of your RSP withdrawals, not only can you dodge those massive tax bombs, you can help avoid losing your hard-earned money to OAS clawbacks and reduce your future personal care home costs. Do you want to know if you lose your CPP or OAS if you move abroad? Or maybe you just want to find out more about my latest upload. Well, I've got everything all queued up and ready for you. Click here for more amazing financial insights. I'll be waiting. We'll see you soon.